$400. That is what a stump grinding service quoted me, to grind out one stump in my yard. 1. And I count 10 of them out back that need to come out before I can plant anything else there. Now, you can rent a stump grinder yourself for somewhere between $100 and $400 a day. And if you have got one stump and a strong back, that might be worth it to you. But if you have got more than one, or if that kind of money just is not sitting around waiting to be spent, I want to show you what folks did before any of those machines ever existed. My name is Amos Miller. Out here on our place, we still get stumps out of the ground the old way, because the old way still works. It just asks something different of you than a rented machine does. I am not selling you a tool, and I am not trying to talk you into some gadget. I am just going to walk you through what has actually worked on our own ground, the same way somebody once showed me. Today, I am walking you through 10 ways to get a stump out of the ground without renting one single piece of heavy equipment. Some of these ask for time. Some ask for a strong back and a good pry bar. One of them, and I mean this, asks for pigs. Every one of these I have used myself, or watched my own father use, and every one of them works, provided you pick the right one for the stump you are actually looking at. Stay with me all the way through, because the 9th one on this list is the one almost nobody thinks to try anymore. And the very last one is not really a method at all. It is something my grandfather taught me that changed how I look at every stump on this property. Let us get into it. Now, before we get into the list, I want to be fair about the other side of this. Renting a stump grinder is not a bad choice for everybody. If you have got one stump, decent money to spend, and no interest in an afternoon of digging, hiring it out is a real option, and I am not going to tell you otherwise. But here is what nobody tells you about that route. Most rental places want the grinder picked up and dropped off the same day, so you are paying for a full day, whether the job takes 2 hours or 8. A lot of them still charge extra to haul away the wood chips and the mulch pile it leaves behind. Sometimes another $50 to $100 on top of the machine. And if you have got more than 1 or 2 stumps, like I do, that bill adds up fast. 10 stumps at $300 or $400 each is not a small number for most families. There is also the machine itself. A stump grinder throws wood chips and rocks at a pretty violent speed, and if you have never run one, it is not the kind of tool you want to be learning on your own back 40 with kids or animals nearby. None of that is a knock on the machine. It does its job well. It is just not free, and it is not always practical. Everything I am about to show you costs a fraction of that, uses tools most of us already have lying around the barn or the shed, and does not ask you to operate anything with spinning blades you have never touched before. That is really the whole idea behind this list. Get the same result, on your own schedule, without writing a big check or hauling home a rental trailer. Alright? Method number one, and this is the one everybody starts with, because it needs nothing but tools you probably already own. Dig it out and cut the roots by hand. Dig a trench about 1.5 feet deep, going out 2 to 3 feet around the stump. Most stumps are held down by somewhere between 4 and 8 major roots, not more than that. And once you can see them, you cut through each one with an old axe or a heavy hatchet, something you do not mind putting through dirt and rock. Do not use your good splitting axe for this. You will ruin the edge in about 10 minutes. Once the roots are cut, work a stout pry bar or a fence post underneath and lever the whole stump up and out of the hole. For a small stump, this is an hour of work with a shovel and a mattock. For something like an old oak that has been sitting there 30 years, give yourself most of a day and bring a second set of hands. Method number 2 only works if the tree is still standing, so this is the one to remember before you ever pick up a chainsaw. Dig around the base and cut the roots on the side you want the tree to fall away from. Then fell the tree in that direction like you normally would. Here is the trick. That 20 or 30 foot trunk becomes the biggest lever you will ever get your hands on. As it goes down, it drags the root ball halfway out of the ground right along with it. The old-timers knew this one, and it saves you the single hardest part of the whole job, because you are using the weight of the tree itself instead of your own back. 2 down, 8 to go. Method number 3 is for a stump where the roots are already cut loose, but it still will not budge. The come along and chain. Wrap a heavy chain low around the base of the stump. And I need to stop and be plain with you here. Never use rope for this. Rope stretches like a rubber band under that kind of strain, and when it lets go, it can snap back hard enough to break a bone, or worse. Chain does not do that. Hook your come along, That is, a hand-cranked cable winch, to something solid at least 30 feet away, an anchor tree, a truck axle buried in the ground, a big boulder, and crank it a few inches at a time, checking your anchor point as you go. A decent come-along and a length of chain runs you $30 to $60 if you do not already own one, and once you do, you will find a use for it for the rest of your life. Method number 4 is for a stump that has already died and dried out, because green wood will not do this. Take a chainsaw and cut a checkerboard pattern into the top, grooves about 4 to 6 inches deep, crisscrossing each other. Then drive iron-splitting wedges into those grooves with a sledgehammer, and the whole stump starts breaking apart into pieces small enough to carry off by hand. One thing to watch, keep that chain up out of the dirt while you are cutting, because touching soil even once will dull a chain in about 10 seconds flat, and a dull chain turns an easy job into a dangerous one. That is 4 ways down, and we have not spent a dime on chemicals yet. Let us change that. Before we move into the next 2, I want to say something about the tools themselves, because I get asked about this a lot. You do not need to buy any of this new. A come-along, an old axe, splitting wedges, a decent pry bar. These show up at farm auctions and estate sales for a few dollars all the time, because most families clear out a shed full of them when somebody passes the property down. Flea markets are the same way, especially out in farm country. And do not be shy about just asking your neighbors. Most folks who have lived on a piece of land for a while have a come-along sitting in the back of a shed they have used maybe twice, and they are usually glad to loan it out for an afternoon in exchange for a jar of preserves, or a hand with something of their own later on. That is how it has always worked out here. Tools get passed around a lot more than they get bought new. If you do need to buy something, a basic splitting wedge set and a decent pry bar together will run you under $30 at almost any hardware store, and both of those will outlast you if you take care of them. The one thing I would spend real money on, if you are going to be doing this more than once, is a good come-along. Buy once, buy well, and it will pull stumps for the next 20 years. Alright, let us keep going. Method number 5 is the one most homesteaders reach for first, because it is cheap, it is slow, and it does not ask much of you. Epsom salt. Drill holes across the top of the stump, 8 to 10 inches deep, a few inches apart from each other, covering the whole surface. Pack every hole full of Epsom salt, then pour warm water over the top until it is good and soaked in. Cover the whole thing with a dark tarp and weight it down with stones so it stays put. Once a month, pull the tarp back and refill the salt. What that salt is doing is pulling the moisture straight out of the wood. Give it 2 to 3 months, and the stump is dead. Give it another handful of months after that, and the wood softens up enough that you can break it apart with an axe, or even by hand. Now, I will be honest with you about method number 6, because there is a faster option, and I would rather you hear about it from me than think I am hiding it. Store-bought stump removal granules work on that same idea, drawing moisture out and speeding up decay, but they usually get the job done in 4 to 6 weeks instead of a couple of months. They run about $15 to $20 a bottle at the hardware store. It is not the free option, but if patience is not something you have got a lot of right now, it is worth the money to some folks. Just like the salt, keep it somewhere pets, and little ones are not going to go digging, and always follow the directions on the bottle. Method number 7 does not need a single tool you do not already have around the place. Smother it and let it rot. Cut the stump down low to the ground if you can manage it. Soak it thoroughly with water, then pile compost, dead leaves, grass clippings, whatever organic material you have got, right on top of it. Cover the whole pile with a black tarp and weight it down with stone. What you have built is a dark, damp, warm little pocket. Exactly the conditions fungus and bacteria need to eat that wood from the inside out. It is slow, sometimes a year, sometimes closer to 3, but it costs you nothing but the price of a tarp. Method number 8 is my favorite one on this whole list, because it is about as old farm as it gets. Let your animals do it for you. If you keep pigs, put a pen around the stump and let them root for grubs. They will tear a small to medium stump apart, looking for food in 1 to 3 weeks. Goats will strip the bark clean off and eat every new shoot that tries to grow back, which starves the roots out over the course of a season. And chickens, given enough time, will scratch the dirt away from the base a little every day, exposing the roots to open air, which speeds the rot up all on its own. If you already keep any of these animals, this method costs you exactly nothing extra, and it is the one that always gets a laugh out of the grandchildren. Now, with 7 of these behind us, you might be wondering which one is actually right for your situation. Let me make that simple. If the stump is small, under about a foot across, and you have got an hour to spare, just dig it out by hand. That is method 1, and it is done today. If the tree is still standing and you have not cut it yet, use the leverage trick, method 2, before you touch a chainsaw. If the roots are already cut, but the stump will not pull free, that is when you reach for the come-along and chain. If the wood is already dry and brittle, skip the digging altogether and go straight to the chainsaw and wedges. If you are not in a hurry at all, and I mean genuinely not in a hurry, the Epsom salt or the tarp and compost method cost you almost nothing and ask almost nothing of your body. They just ask for months instead of an afternoon. And if you keep animals already, method 8 is free money sitting right there in your own barnyard. There is no reason not to let the pigs have a turn at it first. Pick based on how much time you have got, not how much muscle you have got, and you will almost always land on the right one. Method number 9 is the one I told you almost nobody thinks to try anymore. And I want to slow down here, because this one deserves it. Burning the stump out from underneath. This only works on a stump that has fully dried out, cured for at least a year. Greenwood will just smolder and never take. Dig a shallow pit around and under the base so air can get to the fire, and the heat rises straight up into the underside of the stump. Clear away any dry leaves or mulch nearby before you start. Build your fire with dry kindling and keep feeding it. Here is where I need to be completely straight with you. Check your local burn ordinances before you strike a single match. Plenty of counties will fine you anywhere from a few $100 to a few $1,000s for burning without a permit, and during a dry spell, it can be flat out illegal, for a very good reason. Never walk away from this fire, not even for a minute. Keep a hose or buckets of water sitting right there the whole time, mind the wind direction, and plan on 8 to 12 hours of you actually standing there watching it burn, start to finish. If any part of that does not sit right for your property, or your local rules do not allow it, skip this one entirely. There are 9 other ways on this list that do not involve fire at all, and every one of them will get the job done just as well. One more honest thing, before we get to the last one. Every method on this list works, but none of them are truly instant, and I would rather tell you that plainly than have you disappointed halfway through. Digging and the come-along can get a stump out the same day. Everything else, the salt, the tarp, the burn, the animals, takes weeks or months, because you are working with rot and time instead of horsepower. And if you have got a genuine emergency, a stump that is a real hazard, blocking a driveway, sitting where you need a foundation poured next week, there is no shame in calling a professional for that one stump and doing the rest of them the old way. I am not against the machines. I just do not think most stumps on most properties actually need one. With that said, let us close this out with the one that costs you nothing at all. And that brings us to method number 10, which is not really a method at all. Sometimes the best thing you can do to a stump is nothing. If a stump is not in your way, if it is not blocking a fence line or a garden bed, just leave it. It is not doing nothing while it sits there. Old wood like that becomes a home for beetles, for mushrooms, for every manner of small thing that ends up feeding your soil. Depending on how wet your ground is, in anywhere from 3 to 15 years, that stump will be gone entirely, roots and all, and it will have left the dirt around it richer for the weight. My grandfather had stumps on the back of his property he never touched in his whole life. I asked him about it once, why he let good land just sit there like that. He told me the land is not in a hurry, so why was I? He said a young man's job is to grow things, and an old stump's job is to feed the ground for whatever grows there next. It took me a long while to understand what he meant by that, and I think about it every time I walk past one of those old stumps still sitting out back, doing its slow, quiet work. So there you have it. 10 ways to get a stump out of your ground, or leave it be on purpose. Digging it out by hand, using the standing tree as your own lever, the come-along and chain, the chainsaw and wedges, Epsom salt, store-bought granules, the tarp and compost, letting your pigs and goats and chickens do the work, a careful and legal burn, or just plain patience. 10 stumps at $400 apiece would run you $4,000 at the stump grinding service. Every method on this list gets the same job done for the price of a tarp, a bag of salt, or nothing at all. If one of these is going to save you some money this week, tell me which one down in the comments. I would like to know. and I will see you in the next one.